Hello, fictional. Welcome to the Fiction Series X. Today we are gonna see, what if Issei got harem with Murayama and Irina? Part 4. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. There are many things that Ria's thought would never happen. One being her finding a way to be free from Riser, another is gaining powerful pieces for her peerage, and finally fear for her own life. Thankfully and unfortunately for her these things did happen. With Issei and his sandy ass beating Riser and his peerage with a shield and way too many sand statues. Secondly, she gained 3 powerful pieces with Saji and the prison dragon, Asia with her twilight healing and Sakura and her blade blacksmith. She was even more grateful that Issei's mentor was kind enough to train not only her newest pawn, but offered to train the 2 heiresses and their respective peerages. She was quick to accept along with Sona, much to the fear of Issei, Kaori and Sakura. At first she was confused why they were scared, but sadly this brought her to the third thing that she never expected to happen. Come on. No pain, no gain. Hup. 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 Korin was a complete demon that may even scare her big brother. Actually, when she called him after training telling him about the training the second she mentioned Korin, he bombarded her with questions and asked if there was mature woman with silver hair, purple eyes, and was able to make Korin scared. When she said no, she heard and felt a great amount of relief, saying that she was beyond lucky and that she should probably buy a lottery ticket. She couldn't help but be a little curious about this one person, but before she could ask her brother asked her about Issei. She couldn't help but smile knowing that she made a wonderful friend and that he's not an enemy because from what she has seen in the fight, he may be someone that could be classified as an ultimate class. Not only that many other houses are thinking about trying to tie him down in an arranged marriage, but Ria's only said that they would have better odds in making him stop being annoying. Brother, don't get me wrong, but Issei is Issei, and I also doubt his girlfriend would appreciate someone trying to get in his pants just because of his strength. If you don't mind me asking, but where is Lord Issei? Well, he went to Kyoto after finding a clue to his past. So after he got permission from Sona and mother he left the next day. By now he should be at Kyoto, although now that you brought it up, I wonder how is he? Oh? Are you having a crush on him? Rias couldn't help but roll her eyes at Surzich's trying to tease her. No, it's just that knowing Issei he will probably get himself getting into trouble and get himself dragged into a situation that would probably end badly for his enemies. Oh come now. Name one situation. Riser. Okay, I stand corrected. But have faith in your friend, I'm sure he is just meeting with his recently found family and is having a good time. I bet he'll even send a picture of him with his family and you'll find all your worries for naught. This was met with a hollow laugh from Rias. Oh trust me brother, Issei is probably in a fight with a Shinto god and making bad puns while at it. Unfortunately or fortunately depends on who's asking. Issei is doing neither of those things. Ever since Issei first arrived in Kyoto the first thing that he thought about was how to get to the Haidu clan. So after talking with an extremely flirty or with Issei knowing Kuroka, very nice woman, he finally made his way to where his clan should be. Although given how Issei still can't find his way around without getting lost, we now find the young Oasis dragon going through a forest that he clearly does not recognize. Okay, I should probably take a left. Right. Up. Issei was once again lost. This was not the first time that Issei was lost, there was the time before school when he met Sakura, the time to get to Kaori's so that they can go on a date. Kaori understood, but it didn't change the fact that she teased him about it for quite a while. And finally the whole time during the fight against Chicken Permission. He only had a sense of direction against his enemies, but Chicken Permission was more of a brat, so he never really took the fight seriously. Why did I cut my hand during that fight? Issei wondered, then again it did sound cool at the time. While Issei was lost in his own little world, he didn't notice a group that was following him quite closely. He didn't even feel any danger, since Issei was now thinking about Kaori. Before he left for Kyoto he spent the day with Kaori, and the two pretty much went on a date before it ended with the two back at home, and that was a nice night. Issei had a happy smile as he remembered that day. Before Issei left. The sun shone through the curtain of a certain house at a certain angle to a certain dragon, who would much rather enjoy her time sleeping with her boyfriend, who is currently hugging her clothes with his head buried in her chest. In the past the very thought would have brought a huge blush to her face and would have filled her with embarrassment. But then again, back then she never would have thought she would have a boyfriend, be brought into the supernatural, and get to know the most popular people in the school, and get to call them friends. Now she had Issei, even if he can be annoying at times with his tendency to run his mouth. She is a part of Sona's peerage, even before that she was brought into it thanks to Issei. And finally she surprisingly became friends with everyone in the Orc and the student council. In all honesty she never would have thought that any of this would happen, but here she is everything to have happened. But now she is currently annoyed because the light from the sun is coming through the smallest crack and somehow it was angled into her eyes. Fucking sun, Kaori muttered out, but before she could complain more she was suddenly flipped so that the sun was no longer shining in her eyes, but now she was in an even more compromising situation with Issei below her and Kaori on top of Issei. She should feel embarrassed, but considering that it's Issei and while he may seem to be a perfect gentleman albeit a smartass, she knows the truth. Ice, are you awake? She felt his hand on her ass and she couldn't help but let out a small moan from the contact. No, he couldn't help but gave a squeeze. But Kaori knew that two can play at the game as she brought his face even deeper into her chest. Tell me the truth, Ice. Or you'll suffocate in my chest. She playfully threatened and the only response she got was a muffled talking. What? More muffled speech followed by a squeeze. She pulled him out of her chest to ask again. Wah, but she was interrupted by Issei giving her a kiss. Then I will suffocate a happy man. Issei said after kissing Kaori. She rolled her eyes but settled with shifting her position so that she laid her head on his chest. You're an idiot, you know that, right? She heard a chuckle from Issei. Yeah, but I'm your idiot. Kaori heard from said idiot as he pulled her closer to his body. Yeah, an idiot that likes to grab my ass. She said in a teasing tone, but then she felt his hands go down to her thighs. And now my thighs. Well, aren't you a pervert, Kaori said. Yeah, but I'm your pervert. Issei said. Kaori couldn't help but laugh at his response. You better stay safe in Kyoto. I know. I'll make sure to not provoke the Shinto faction. You better not, I don't want to hear that you did something stupid and made a bunch of enemies. You already have the church for that. I won't, and the church deserved for being a bunch of hypocritical asshats. Issei said. I guess, but just make sure to stay safe, okay? Kaori asked. I will. The two shared a kiss that quickly escalated and with Kali and Middle being deep sleepers, the two continued until, well, it's best to leave the two dragons to their own privacy. Now back to Issei, who doesn't recognize that he is upside down hanging from a tree. That was a nice day, Issei said to no one in particular as he was brought out of his thoughts as he felt a sudden rush to his head. Once he looked up to his feet he saw a rope tied around them that was also tied to a tree. So as any reasonable person he did what anyone would do in this situation, and that is create an axe made of sand and began to chop at the tree. Once he cut enough that it began to fall, a thought made its way into Issei's head. Why didn't I just cut the rope? The tree fell on top of Issei, quickly knocking him out. It was also at this moment that the people who were following him appeared and some of them picked up the tree to take back to their home. So this is the young one? A short black-haired woman said. Yes, at first I was hesitant, but even I could feel it. He is Sis's son, and of that bastard. A tall brunette woman answered. Don't worry, Toka, he was raised by Kakabiel, and you know of how he feels about Miyabi. So we know that he isn't like that man. The black-haired woman assured the now-named Toka. I hope so, Kasaki, but I also hope that he didn't inherit Sis's tendency to be a huge smartass. Toka said, hoping for the best, but sadly those hopes were quickly dashed once Issei woke up. Well, it looks like those hopes are for nothing because I live again. Issei yelled out, much to the surprise of the two people. Kasaki stayed calm but readied some magic while Toka on the other hand pulled a sword from nowhere. Whoa. What's with the whole looking like you're gonna kill me thing? I mean, it's not the first time, but I would have assumed that you would at least do some monologuing that I will most certainly ignore before you pull out some weapons. Toka lowered her weapons once she heard Issei talk. Fuck, he is her son. Well, at least you ain't like the other bastard. This brought a small amount of confusion from Issei. What do you mean? I thought my dad was a decent person. This brought some anger from Toka, but before she could start yelling a flapping of wings was heard. The three quickly went back to back with Toka pulling out her sword, Kasaki preparing some magic and Issei gathering some sands around his hands. Once they looked up they saw three fallen that were looking at them, Issei in particular in disgust. Well crap, I didn't think I was gonna fight so soon. Issei said as one of the fallen threw a spear at him, but instead of deflecting it, Issei took the hit. This brought panic to the two women since they were worried that their nephew bit the dust while the fallen looked happy that they killed him. Sadly for them, what they heard next made them pale. Adapt. After hearing that they saw Issei emerge from the smoke with a small scratch on him. He was clearly not impressed from what they have tried. Seriously? Did you really think a toothpick like that is gonna hurt? I mean, thanks for the food, now I have a slight resistance to light, but did you really think that that was going to work? Issei cracked his knuckles as he gave them a smirk. How about I show you what a real attack is? He said before he disappeared. The fallen were twisting and turning hoping to find Issei, but before they noticed Issei appeared behind them and knocked one of them down with a hammer made of sand. Followed by Issei grabbing the other and throwing him into the last one. Once Issei came back down he quickly manifested a swirl of sand to suck them in until their heads were the only thing left above the ground. I can't believe that worked, Issei said, shaking some sand out of his head. After which he looked up and smiled at the other two people. Well, here you go. I'm sure you have some questions for them. Issei said as he presented his prize. After an interrogation and letting the sand swallow them. Much to the horror of the two women, to which Issei explained that if they were to leave alive, then it will only bring even greater problems, like goblins in D&D, those damn bastards. But while they tried to stay light-hearted, it was the information that they acquired from the fallen that worried them. First off for Issei, he found out that his birth dad was alive and not the nice guy that he remembered him to be. Now with everything he thought about his own dad, he should be shaken, with a whole identity crisis about his whole life, where he goes into some brooding moments only to saved by a future Hermit, if he wasn't already questioning it back then, after looking at some of the pictures. Most of them didn't even have his biological dad in the picture. Most of the time it was Kakabiel wearing a stupid Hawaiian shirts, not that he minded since he has a fair amount of them as well, but the point stands. He knows that this info should have shaken him, but after everything that he has gone through after going to the Grigori, he will be okay. He just needs to remember to talk with Kaori or some friends if it gets too much. Although now he has to deal with the bickering between his two aunts before arriving at the compound which houses even more females. Honestly, he would have appreciated the sight of a bunch of beautiful women if it weren't for the fact that they are related to him. So auntie. The two immediately stopped fighting. So could you explain to me what I really am, because I'm starting to figure out that I'm not just a human wellwas, but you get the idea. Kasaki nodded. Well, to make a long story short with skipping all the clan stuff about the Haidu clans, history, Kasaki said before Toka interrupted. But about pride, he should at least have some pride in his own history. I doubt that he is going to want to stay in Kyoto. Kasaki responded. She's not wrong, I mean I do have a life back in Kuo, and I still have a fair amount of things that I need to do, along with the fact that Kaori is still back home. This brought some sly looks from the two yakais. And who is this Kaori? Toka asked, trying to embarrass her nephew. My girlfriend, heck, with how she acted in the past you wouldn't believe that she is okay with a harem. Then again, I never thought that she would be making jokes, but then again Sakura and I do hang out with her a lot. Issei said as he pulled out his phone to find a photo of Kaori. After finding one, he showed them and they couldn't help but smile at the photo. It was one with Issei asleep while leaning on Kaori and Kaori leaning on him as well. It was same one that Sona sent him after coming back home from the underworld, and everyone decided to hang out at his house again. Not that he minded, but he may need to start budgeting soon, considering how they enjoy his cooking and Kaneko, actually mostly because of Kaneko. Then again, he didn't mind because Kaneko is also a friend who also helps with the cooking. Wait. A harem, Issei nodded, as in the type with a bunch of girls fighting for your affection. No, that's something different, I think. The one that me and Kaori agreed to was one where we all get along, mostly to stop problems before they start, you know what I mean. Kasaki couldn't help but nod at his words. That makes sense. Many people were killed because of jealousy and problems at home, so it would make sense that the only people you and your mate would allow are the ones that would get along. But that does lead me to a question though. Yeah? What if there was one that didn't get along, but you knew that she is good person? If you're talking about it, Sundira, then you're also talking about my flat-chested buddy from the Grigori. Issei laughed. What do you mean? Toka asked. I'm talking about Vali or Anna or Valiana. I never really settled on one name. On the outside she may seem like an angry porcupine that will stab you as warning, but once you give her time, she is just a ball of fluff that enjoys cuddling and cute things. I really do think that she would get along with Kaori, since they both like cute things, even though they won't admit it. Although now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure after telling you this I may have put myself in danger. Issei laughed, but they can clearly feel the fear from him. Meanwhile, with said flat-chested porcupine. A sneeze could be heard from the kitchen as a young woman whose spiky snow-white hair is tied in a ponytail quickly pulled a paper towel from the roll and blew into it before going back to cooking. This also brought some concern to another young woman who is clearly taller than her, along with having a fuller figure. These two people are Valiana Lucifer and her friend Artoria Pendragon. Is something wrong, Valiana? Artoria showed her concern for the young woman, since her past was not the happiest, with her happy memories only being the ones that came with the Grigori and her mother. But Artoria also knew about Valiana's crush on Issei. Well, it started as a crush, but after he left she noticed how she didn't have as much pep in her step, and even though she wouldn't admit it, Artoria knew that she had feelings for the smartest. It's nothing, but I think that once I see Issei again I need to kick his ass. She said, flipping another burger. But then a red-haired young man wearing Chinese armor entered and well. Oh, come on, Vali. I know you're ready to see your husband, but are you sure you want to see him with that flat? He didn't finish those words as a foot was sent straight to his face, preceded by sending him out the window. Shut up, Biku. Vali yelled out to no one in particular as the offender was sent somewhere outside. She then looked down at her chest before she went to put the heat on low, then went to a corner and sulk. I'm not that flat. She was too busy sulking to notice the pair of arms that wrapped around her in a gentle embrace. "Oh, don't worry Naya, I'm sure Issei will appreciate what you have to offer." Vali looked up and before she could smile at Kuroka she was met with her chest. Her very large chest before looking back down at her modest chest, then back up, then down, before she went back to her corner and to sulk now with a visible cloud over her. "It's just unfair," Valiana kept repeating while Kuroka had a shocked face and Artoria just continued cooking dinner. Meanwhile with Kaori. "I don't know Akeno, do you really think that he'd be okay with that?" Kaori said as she continued cooking while Middle played cards with Akeno, Riaz and Kalawiner. But she heard a giggle from Akeno. "Yes, I'm sure. I think it would be quite the treat for your boyfriend," Akeno said before she noticed that she was hit with +8. I did not expect Middle to have a +4. Kalawiner couldn't hide her surprise. Akeno then looked at Riaz before giving her a sadistic smile. One that was able to scare her. "Akeno, have mercy," Riaz pleaded. "I'm sorry my king," Akeno said before placing another +4. While they were having their small war, Kaori let out a cute sneeze. "Is Ice talking about me?" she said to no one in particular. Now back to the sandy boy. Issei was talking with his grandmother who is also the leader of the Haidu clan, along with giving an explanation of what he is and helping in releasing the seal. It was also at this point that Kakabiel finally shows up along with a small bag of food. "Really dad? Really Kakabiel? Oh come now, I even have some for you my son," Kakabiel said as he pulled a pack of food for his son. This was met with silence before Issei spoke. "Hand the food over, I'll worry about the seal and the small regiment of strays later. I'm starving," Issei said as Kakabiel handed him the food. "Asaki, Toka, Asuna. You guys want some?" Kakabiel asked pulling out some food for the two aunts and the chief of the clan. "Fuck yeah. Do you understand how bland some of the food these two idiots make?" Issei's grandmother Asuna said as she grabbed a pack from Kakabiel and began eating with vigor like her grandson. Even though she doesn't look like a grandmother, it's the thought that counts for her. The other people in the room couldn't hide their surprise but eventually gave up and joined them. After eating and having small talk along with Kakabiel teasing Issei about leaving Vali, Issei braced himself for the unsealing of his heritage and his past. "Issei, no matter what you learn I want you to know that you are my son. Even if you aren't my son by blood I am still happy and honored that I was allowed to raise you," Kakabiel said as he prepared a magic circle along with Issei's grandmother. "Thank dad." He took a deep breath before nodding. "Alright, I'm ready." Once the magic circles were complete, Issei was not prepared for the sudden rush of memories to hit him full force. He remembered everything from Kakabiel and his mother hugging each other as they saw him take his first steps. To the time that they took a family photo with the Shidus, along with the promise he made with Irina. But all the happy memories stopped once he saw the memory of his father and what he has tried to do to him. Along with what he attached to Irina and the sacrifice of his mother to save him from dying. He couldn't help falling to his knees before a bucket was brought to him to throw up in. Issei looked up to the concerned faces of his family, he remembered them as well, but one thing stood out. A sad look in Kakabiel's eyes. Issei didn't understand, but then it clicked. Kakabiel regrets not being able to save his mother. It explained why Kakabiel took so much time to raise him, to train him, to simply be his dad. When Kakabiel looked at him he looked away from fear of rejection, but he was surprised once he felt a strong pair of arms around him. "Issei?" Kakabiel couldn't hide his surprise. Why was he hugging him? Shouldn't he hate him, have the urge to kill him, reject him? "Dad, it's okay, I understand you have your duties, I also know that mom wouldn't want you to blame yourself," Issei said. Kakabiel couldn't help but hug his son back. Years of self-doubt erased thanks to his son, but it was also at this moment that Kakabiel backed up before he reached in his jacket and pulled out a letter. "Issei, I wanted to give this to you when you learned of your past, but I was hesitant for fear of you hating me. I apologize for letting my doubts dictate my actions." "It's okay, I'm pretty sure I would think the same thing," Issei said as he took the letter from Kakabiel's hands. He looked down at the letter and couldn't help but feel a little scared. This was the last thing from his mother. Someone that after regaining his memories, he looked up to. She was his hero, with everything she did to make sure that her only child is safe. With all the love she could give to her child so that he would grow to be a kind person. He couldn't help but feel a little scared, but when he looked up to his family, he found his resolve and opened the letter. The first thing he noticed was the picture. It was a family picture with him in her arms pressed against body and Kakabiel with an arm around his mother's shoulders. He remembered that day, he remembered everything. Years ago. The little Issei, who is currently hanging on to Kakabiel's head, couldn't stop shaking as he looked around from his perch in the sky. The little Nekashu couldn't stop his trembling until he felt a gentle pair of hands around his small frame. When he looked at the owner of the hands, he couldn't help but cling to her for dear life. "Mama!" Issei yelled as he hugged her tightly. The young woman couldn't help but laugh a little at seeing her little kitten be scared from heights. "Oh, is my little kitten afraid of heights?" She asked as she looked down at Issei, who is currently hiding in her chest. He nodded quickly. That's okay, little one. I know that one day you'll become a brave little cat. You think so? Issei asked, a little sad that he isn't her brave little cat right now. I know so. Now come on, we have a picture to take. Issei's mother said as she went to Kakabiel's side with her son in tow. When Kakabiel looked at Issei, he couldn't help but smile and pinch his cheeks. This brought a laugh from the little kitten before he did all he could to knock his hands away. Papa. Only mama is allowed to pinch my cheeks. Issei said with a cute pout. One that brought a hearty laugh from the cadre. Sorry Issei, but you know how much I love pinching your cheeks. Kakabiel said as he patted his son's head along with ruffling his hair. This action brought a small purring sound that brought smiles to his parents. I look forward to being able to train to be as strong as me. But this brought a shake of his head. Sorry papa, but I promised mama that I will train with her to be as strong as her and earn my tails like she did. Issei said, hoping that this didn't bring a sad look to Kakabiel. Instead this brought a smile to his face. That would be best. She is the strongest person I know, and I'm really old. He laughed as Issei laughed with him. But promise me one thing. Anything papa? Issei said in hopes of making his dad proud. Become a harem king and fulfill your father's dream. Kakabiel said with some gusto. What's a harem king? Issei said with a cute tilt of his head. But this was silenced quickly by his mother hugging him. Along with a scary aura coming from her. Mama. Issei said looking up to his mother. Kakabiel on the other hand became really scared at seeing Miyabi's face with a scary smile. Don't listen to your father Issei, his ideas are usually bad. Miyabi said with a smile to her kitten. And don't worry, when you come of age I'm sure I could convince mom to train you so that you can be stronger than me. This brought a gasp from Issei though. But mama. You're the strongest person I know, how can I be stronger than you? Issei said, his little cat ears twitching and his tail standing straight with worry. Because you're my child Issei, and I know that you will be stronger than me before I even know what happened. Now then, let's take this picture and get back to watching TV. Miyabi said as they looked at the photographer, who was enjoying the scene of a family being a family. Sadly, this happy memory was followed by the last time Issei saw his mother. After everything happened with his real father trying to kill him, he was scared that his time has come. Thankfully Mr. Shidu came and saved Issei and Irina. Sadly his mother sacrificed whatever life force she had left to help Issei and his transformation into a dragon. Inrose, please protect my kitten, protect Issei, Miyabi begged the dragon within the sacred gear. It was at this point that Inrose finally manifested. Of course, I will protect your child as if he was my own. It was also at this point that Mr. Shidu found her and Issei. Miyabi. Hang on, I already sent a message to Kakabiel. But this was met with a sad chuckle from her. It's okay my friend, I know that my time has come. Miyabi looked to her sleeping son, who is now a dragon Nekashu hybrid. What should have been a shot in the dark became a success thanks to her using what's left of her life force to save her child. It was also at this point that Kakabiel finally arrived. Miyabi. Kakabiel tried to save her, but she shook her head, so he is left with holding his dying wife. Miyabi, I'm sorry. As tears began to fall from his eyes, a gentle hand caressed his cheek. It's okay Cookie, at least I saved Ice. With whatever strength she had left, she picked up Issei and held him close. I'm sorry I won't be able to see you be stronger than me. I love you my little Ice, Miyabi said as she finally left this world, a content smile on her face. Kakabiel began to wail as he felt the life leave her body, and Mr. Shidu only looked down to his sleeping daughter, muttering a small prayer and thanks to Miyabi Haidu for saving his daughter. Sadly they couldn't mourn in peace as fallen angels appeared. They looked at and Issei like they are trash, something that Kakabiel didn't take kindly. Now back with everyone in the room. I think I'd remember so much from a simple letter picture. Dad, did you read the letter? This was met with a nod. That would explain the marks on the paper. Issei braced himself as he opened the letter addressed to him. As he began to read, he sat down as he felt himself get emotional. To my little kitten Issei. Oh my sweet little baby, how I wish I could be telling you this right now in person. To be with you and be there to comfort you whenever you need me. To just hold you like the parent I wish I could be. But I know that if you're reading this then I am gone. But just because I am gone doesn't mean I can't leave you something to remind you how much I love you, how much me and Cookie love you. Because that's what this letter is about, along with the picture. To simply show you how much I love you. I still remember the day you were born. You may be the biological son of that vile man. But I know that you are the son of Kakabiel, especially with how careful he was when he first held you and how much he loved you. How he cried like baby when he saw your little face, how he held us so close and thanked us just for still being in the world at the time. I remember how you were so spoiled and that whenever we tried to leave you in your crib, you would just start crying until either of us took you back with us. How you rarely swallowed the baby food, but you took to those damn drinks Kakabiel always brings back from Mexico. I still remember when you acted like you swallowed the baby food only to shoot it at my back when I wasn't looking. Then your first words and then your first steps. Oh, how I wish that you were a little more relaxed like Kasaki, because you just wouldn't stand still. I also knew to keep you away from Azazel, because your first word was shit. Then again I was able to beat him to a couple inches of his life, so it balances out. I also remember your first friend, Irina, and how you promised her to be her husband in the future when you both become strong. I really hope you don't follow Cookie's advice and started a harem. But if you did, I hope you keep your promise and that you show all your future haremets the same amount of love they deserve. At first I was worried since the Shidus are from the same faction that man belonged to. But thankfully they proved to be wonderful people that I am glad to have known. I also remember the amount of pictures I took during the short time that I was with you. Oh, there are so many. I hope that you kept many of them. I also hope that you will take photos of your future friends, family, all the important people of your life. Because as the saying goes, if you want to see what matters to someone, then see what they take a picture of. Then again I guess that would explain all the pictures of you and Cookie and Irina, her parents, mom, Toka and Kasaki and everyone in the clan. Every last one of you meant so much to me. In my whole life I achieved many things, but none of them held a candle to being your mother. Now I understand why mom said being a proud parent is her greatest achievement. But with that achievement it also holds my greatest regret because I won't be able to see you grow into the fine young man that I know you will become. To be able to see you and Irina's wedding, to hold your children as you take pictures of them and me and Cookie and everyone that matters to you. Just like I did with you. But please remember this, my baby, even though I am gone. I will always love you, my darling little kitten. Even if you surpass your mother's height. You will always be my little kitten. The same kitten that I held in my arms when you were born. The same kitten that always snuggled into my arms as we slept as a family. The same kitten that will grow into a fine cat that will surpass his mother. You will always be my little kitten, my whole world, and most importantly I want you to remember that I will always be proud of you, Issei Haidu. I won't say goodbye because I know I will see you again and I look forward to the stories that you tell me of your life. I love you. Love, Miyabi Haidu, Issei's mother. Issei couldn't hide his sobs anymore as he finished the letter. He looked up and saw his family. Kakabiel, his dad, spoke up first. Issei, I know that this must be hard, but he was stopped when Issei stood up and gave him a tight hug. It's okay, Dad. It's okay. Kakabiel hugged his son once he heard him say that. Proud that Miyabi was right about Issei becoming the fine young man that she believed her son will be. It was also at this moment that she felt something soft brush up on his hand. After they separated he saw that Issei sprouted his cat ears and his tails. His two tails. Kakabiel couldn't help but feel proud of his son and how he has grown so much over the years. You really are becoming the man your mother believed you can be. Kakabiel said with laugh. Well, I do want to make you guys proud. This was met with a hand on top his head. You will always make us proud, Issei. Kakabiel said sadly. Their father-son moment was interrupted by an explosion from the front of the compound. Toka was the first one to speak before she left everyone along with Kasaki to respond to the explosion. Crap, it must be those strays. Issei. We would appreciate it if. No, Issei smiled at their expression before he looked at his dad. Kakabiel had the same smile. Let me and Dad handle this, you just worry about the others. Issei said as the Oasis Aegis appeared. Issei, from the info we got, there must be over a couple hundred strays. Kasaki said with concern for her nephew, but she was met with a smile from the two men. Just make sure not to leave blood all over the place, it's a bitch to clean up. Issei's grandma said. This was met with a shrug from the two. No promises. They said as they looked forward with determination. Kakabiel manifested 2 light spears ready to skewer the bastards that dare invade the home of the love of his life. Ready, son. Balance break. Issei yelled as the Spartan shield appeared on his arm, along with the sand gathering around him. Issei smiled at his dad. Ready, Dad. They walked out to see a couple hundred stray exorcists and fallen angels invading their home. Sadly for them, they only provoked the wrong pair of idiots. Snow, this was the first thing she has seen when she opened her eyes. Not only that, she also learned that it was quite cold, so she began to move. Where, one would ask. Forward. The one who is moving forward is an unknown little girl who's only wearing a blanket over her body. How she was able to move through the snow with very little protection and suffer little is a mystery, but one thing is for certain, she began to grow tired. But like a soldier she marched on. She didn't know how long she marched on or how far she went. The only thing she did know is that she is lying on the ground, exhausted from her march. It was also at this moment that she began to feel fear. Fear that she is going to die, but just before she closed her eyes for good, she noticed a figure coming towards her. She tried to call out, but her voice was weak. She tried to reach out, but her hands were numb, so she only closed her eyes and waited for the inevitable. Or so she thought as she woke up in a warm bed, wearing what seemed to be a pajama shirt. She looked around and saw some monitors, and when she looked at her arms, she saw tubes connected to her arms. She remembered the labs, the needles, the pain, the fear of the man with the white hair. She reached towards them, but then she saw a hand on hers. She was about to react, but then she heard a very gentle voice that calmed her quickly. "Shh, easy now, little one. I won't hurt you." The voice was gentle, that she couldn't help but relax. She was about to scream when she felt the tube leave her arms, but the pain quickly disappeared when the same hand that was on hers glowed. "There we go. We just needed to make sure that you don't do anything that will hurt you." The little girl looked up and saw a pair of orange eyes that looked at hers with a kind, gentle warmth that she has never seen before. These eyes belonged to a purple, messy-haired woman who is wearing what seemed to be fine clothing that only brings out her beauty. "Now if you don't mind me asking, what is a little girl doing out in that snowstorm?" The little girl tilted her head cutely, but spoke, nevertheless. "Snowstorm?" The woman couldn't help but want to hug her, but she nodded. "I don't know, I woke up and it was cold." "Oh dear, do you know your name?" "What's a name?" This raised some red flags for the young woman, but she answered. "It's something that we are called." This made the little girl think a little, but she gave her answer, but when she did the woman noticed how the light that was once there quickly disappeared. The same way many of the people of Fortuna did. "The core, my name is the core." It doesn't take a genius to figure out that that shouldn't be her name. "Do you want it to be your name?" This got the attention of the little girl, and now that the woman got a good look at her, she saw how she was a little paler than needed, with golden eyes and hair that is about as dark as wine. "She makes me think that maybe she could be R." She shook herself out of those thoughts as she reached out and patted her head. An action that the little girl couldn't help but lean into. "A name like that doesn't belong to a child like you. How about a different name?" The little girl's red eyes looked up to hers. "Really? Can you?" The woman couldn't help but find her adorable. "Yes, but that's only if you want me to." She was met with vigorous nodding. She couldn't help but are even more adorable. She pondered for a bit on what to name the little girl, but then she remembered a conversation she had with him before he went on that mission. "Kids, huh? Aren't we a little young for that sort of thing?" the brunette said. "Oh, and what we are doing isn't." She couldn't help but laugh at his reaction. He shook his while scratching the back of his head, looking a little shy, but it doesn't change that he is quite the charmer, albeit in his own dorky way. "You got me there." How about Noelle?" "Yes, your new name is Noelle." The little girl was confused at first, but then she smiled. This was the first thing that she was happy to receive ever since she first woke up, but now she had to ask a question that she hadn't thought about. "What's your name?" The purple-haired woman couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed at forgetting to introduce herself, but unlike in the past where she might have hidden behind a certain brunette, now she was able to smile because it was thanks to him and the former chief that she along with the Yakase found safety in Fortuna. She smiled and introduced herself. "My name is Ingvald Leviathan and allow me to say this, Noelle." The now named Noelle perked up at her new name. "Welcome to Fortuna." Now back to our regularly, as if, scheduled Issei. To say he was having fun is to pretty much state the obvious for Issei and Kakabiel. Considering how these two are currently decimating the enemy strays and simply enjoying their father-son bonding time. The strays on the other hand are in a state of disarray after the first attack from Issei, which is pretty much a tsunami of sand. Not only that, once it covered a fair share of enemies, Issei willed the sand to compress, effectively killing a fair share of the strays. While Issei may have seemed proud, it was Kakabiel that showed him that he is still a greenhorn. After killing a few of the strays, he proceeded to summon an incredible number of light spears and essentially made it rain on the enemy. Once the damage was done, Issei and Kakabiel were presented with a grand showing of blood, sand, and light. So far no one said anything that would make this side of carnage a J. 50 cent. "Blood on the sand," Issei said. "Why did you say that?" Kakabiel asked his son, in all but blood. "That is seriously what it reminds me of. I mean, come on dad. Look at all the sand. And blood," and Kakabiel raised a hand to stop his son from continuing. "I get it, Issei, it's just really that 50-cent game." It was the first one that popped up in my head. "Oh well, at least we only have to deal with that," but Kakabiel was interrupted by an explosion to the face. While Issei should panic, he is just looking at the one who sent the explosion, and what he saw is what made him a little angry. Okay, he is disappointed while looking at him. He really looked like someone that let himself go. But the brown hair looking far too dirty, along with the standard exorcist's uniform looking a little too tight at the gut, a beard that seems to be soaked in grease. "Well, look at that. The mighty Kakabiel defeated by me, the mighty Goru." The now named Goru yelled as he then looked at Issei, expecting him to cower in fear, but he became frustrated when he saw the look that Miyabi gave him once she was free. They were looking down on him. "How dare you look down me, you brat." You are my son, so be a good little boy and beg for your, let it be known that Issei, while he can be a smartass, someone that runs his mouth, and a perv, although that side is reserved for Kaori. Issei is also quite ruthless. As shown in the next scene with Issei charging at his biological father and slamming his arm with a shield that is his balance breaker and sending him crashing into some trees. You're one ugly son of a bitch. Seriously, Dad. This is who I'm related to. When the smoke cleared from where the explosion happened, it revealed an unharmed Kakabiel. In all honesty, he really let himself go. I think if I remembered correctly, he was one of the better looking ones. Aside from Vasco. Kakabiel said as he remembered the old man fondly as the only exorcists he will ever respect. Especially those rippling. Dad, please. Issei stopped him before he could continue. He was already scarred enough from looking into his old memories, many of them quite weird. He would much prefer to never bring them up, although some of them he could look back with a nostalgic look. But before Issei could be lost in his thoughts, he was interrupted by the same ugly SOB, and in all honesty, it was quite the sorry sight. The right arm bent in an unnatural angle, his left side had a fair share of wood lodged into it, his left leg bent. He looked like what would happen if his bones were made of glass. He swore he saw this before, except not as bad, and it happened to a good guy. Although the good guy was able to look not as pathetic as this guy. Seriously, how are we related? Even Kakabiel couldn't hide his reaction at the sight of Goru. Gone was the bastard that stole the love of his life, now all that stood against him is a sad man who has nothing to lose and nothing to gain. They couldn't even joke about it. You bastard. How dare you do this to your own father? Issei was confused, but then it clicked. Oh yeah. Well, it's easy, I used my shield. Issei said as he raised his shield up before he made it disappear. Then again, I never needed it. Issei said before he took a serious look. Other than that, I would like to know, why are you here? He was met with a cruel laugh. Why else would I be here? I am going to enslave that damn cat clan and make them see the light of our Lord. Even though you know he's dead. Issei said to the man, but he was met with a snarling mess. Don't speak of such heresy. He is not dead. God is still alive, Goru tried to say, but he was interrupted by Issei throwing a sledgehammer made of sand at him and hitting the mark. So, he was now a sniveling mess on the ground. Trying to say things like this shouldn't be happening, I am a hero, I'm probably going to die either from a sand hammer or a light spear. Issei interrupted Goru as the father-son duo created their weapons. Your choice. He tried to crawl away, but sadly he forgot that the two can jump. So, while he tries to crawl away, the father-son duo are having a discussion. I would like to kill him to avenge Miyabi, but I think it should fall on your shoulders, mostly because I know you'll make it funny. Issei tried to act offended by throwing his hammer in the air. Dad, I am a proud Nekashu dragon hybrid. I know how to take a fight seriously, and I am offended that my own father suddenly, they heard a squish in the background, and when they looked back they saw Goru, except he is missing his head, and instead in its place is the same hammer. The two looked at each other, Issei had a blank look, while Kakabiel had a shit-eating grin. Yeah, we both knew that I am rarely serious. I am your son after all. Issei said before they burst out laughing and began to walk back to the compound to tell the rest of the clan that the strays are taken care of. Although now Issei must deal with an even bigger challenge, earning his third tail. Back at Issei's place, a week later. Kaori was heading back home thinking about what she was going to make for dinner, considering that she is one of the few people that can cook and the Gremory peerage is currently on a hunt. Although in all honesty, one of the more surprising things happened earlier when it was found out that Sakura also had an evil gear instead of a sacred gear. Although how they found out was funny. Larg, Sakura said, feeling and looking a little, very, green. Even after being treated by the healing light of the twilight healing, it didn't change much. Sakura was still feeling sick, so Riaz called her brother and asked for suggestions. Meanwhile, Sakura was simply being Sakura. I can't believe I'm gonna die before she could finish what she was about to say. Kaori quickly brought the book over her head to knock her out. Thanks, Kaori. Riaz said before going back to discussing possible cures for Sakura. Don't get her wrong, she loves Sakura like a little sister, but she is almost if not as bad as Issei. Meanwhile, Amital came back with some rice porridge to give to Sakura, but then she saw how she is currently out and gave a shrug and went downstairs to enjoy the porridge she made with Kali, only for it to somehow attack her. Thankfully, she learned how to use her light a little better. Although once Sakura woke up, she may have said the smartest thing she would ever say in her life, or at least until later in the story. Do you think that maybe, just maybe, I might have to take the last pawn piece so that the magic inside of me could possibly stabilize? I mean, it is possible that I may have gotten stronger and that the piece's magic is just not enough. Sakura said. Everyone just looked at her like she said something completely out of character for her, which in this case it is. It became so silent that they didn't even notice Riaz come back with two individuals, or at least until one of them coughed into their hand. When everyone turned around, they an older version of Ria's, if she was a he and a man with slick green hair and a handsome face standing next to him. They gave a warm smile, but they knew that the way they carried themselves is enough to demand respect. But before they could kneel or in Sakura's case fall to the floor and bow, the red-haired one raised his hand to stop them. Now don't worry, we're here to help, and we were quite bored after we surprisingly finished our work. This brought a smack upside the head from the green-haired one. You mean I finished my work? You on the other hand, decided to shove your work onto Serafal, just so you can visit your sister and her peerage, and possibly meet the Oasis Aegis wielder. This brought some blank looks from Kaori, Asia, Saji, and Sakura, if her face could be seen. The rest are simply used to this. Hey, she did the same thing to me just so she can shoot a freaking episode of her dang. Thankfully, before the two could continue bickering, Ria's coughed into her hand. Lord Lucifer, Lord Beelzebub. Please remember why you are here before I call Graphia. The two quickly went back to leader mode quickly, because last time they tested that well, let's say there's a reason why Graphia is well respected, and it's not just because of her beauty. Right. Sakura, it is a pleasure to meet you, and from what you have deduced I believe that it may be because there is not enough power coming from the evil pieces, so this may end up causing a negative effect on you. So, the best solution is for Ria's to use her last piece on you. This brought a surprised look from everyone, since this may have been one of the few times that she said something that was supported by someone with authority. Also, we may have to take you to check out your sacred gear, since it's possible that it may be something other than Blade Blacksmith. This quickly gained everyone's attention. What do you mean? Ria's asked, clearly concerned for Sakura. Well, if it was a simple sacred gear it wouldn't need another piece to stabilize, but with Sakura going through such pain, it is possible that she has a completely different sacred gear, one that may have the same properties as the Oasis Aegis and the karmic retribution. Ajuka stated in a matter-of-fact tone. So, what you're saying is, you may have another powerful piece. This brought small sense of dread from Ria's, because if she remembered correctly, then it may be another friend of Inaro's, and they may mean more chaos in the future. So, I will have to take her to the underworld for some testing, and I will bring back the results the next day, but before that, could you hurry and put the piece in her before she throws? Sadly, Ajuka wasted his breath when he saw Sakura pick herself up before hurling whatever she had. Meanwhile, Issei was training with his family and then felt a disturbance at his house, one that earned him a punch in the face from his grandmother. Never mind, we'll just have to make it look as if nothing ever happened, Ajuka said before he used a magic circle to clean up the mess. Thank you, Lord Beelzebub. Trust me when I say this, I'm sure Issei would have appreciated it. Don't mention it, let's just get her to the lab so we can fix her up and bring your last pawn. Of course. Who would have thought that it was one of your friends, Tia? Kaori asked the dragon in her now named evil gear. After the whole examination, placing the new piece into Sakura, which somehow brought the second half of the smart-ass duo back to life and a whole awakening scene. Sakura is now the host of an old friend of the two dragons who lives in Issei and Kaori. Although from the many other dragons that had to have been sealed, it had to be the one that drove Tiamat insane and was pretty much the other half of Inaro's, if bad ideas had another half. Don't get me started on her. Once everyone found out who it was that is sealed in Sakura, Tia went into a rant of how life simply hates her since she doesn't have a physical body, her mate is also without a physical body, and now her partner is best friends with the partner of Mirage. Why did it have to be her of all dragons? Or maybe a beast like Rhino, or the point is why her? Why do you hate her so much? Kaori couldn't help but feel a little worried. It's not that I hate her, it's more like how you and Sakura interact along with Issei. That was more than enough to explain it. We're going to have our patience tested, aren't we? Yep, and I am terrified of what it's gonna be like when she activates Balance Breaker. Well, let's just get back home and maybe we'll be sent on a contract, hopefully. Kaori said before she bumped into someone and fall on her butt. Ow, hey, are you okay? Kaori said as she stood up quickly and went over to help the figure, who is wearing a sort of hood, up, but then she felt something that raised some flags. After she helped the person up, she stepped back just as quick. Yes, I am fine, thank you. The person, who sounded feminine, said as she dusted off her robe, although before she knew it, Kaori had to dodge a swipe from the person. Is what I would say if you weren't a devil. Had it been a normal devil, the devil would have been killed quickly. Unfortunately for the hooded figure, she was trained by Korin, who was leagues ahead of this person. And a hell of a lot scarier when she wants to be. Quit moving. The hooded figure said before her blade was caught by an armored gauntlet. When she looked at the owner of the gauntlet, she is met with Kaori, who had an annoyed look on her face. I'm just gonna take a guess and say that you're some exorcists and you're here for a reason. Kaori said before the two jumped away from each other. The hooded figure was about to attack, she stopped when she heard Kaori speak. Are you sure it's a good idea trying to one of the pawns of Lady Sona Citri? This made her stop and fumble a bit before she got into a combat stance. And why would her pawn go out into the night? At this point even Kaori couldn't hide her annoyance. Because we have contracts. Kaori explained. Then why did you attack me? At this point Tiamat had enough and appeared. Although the next thing she said brought a screech of fear from the hand of the hooded woman. Because like every other person she will be prone to mistakes, just like my mistake on thinking that you have matured Devona, but no, you had to have that stupid ass name. At this point the very much confused hooded woman is confused after hearing that name. Why did you say Devona, the dragon in the? I was there when Inaros introduced them to me, child. And in all honesty Devona, really? Drake, the red dragon of domination. Dragon god, I swear you two are complete. Thankfully Tiamat was interrupted by Kaori. Well, I would very much like to stay and watch the reunion of friends. Kaori said with clear sarcasm. I think I should get back home and get started on dinner. Kaori said, picking up her bag that was filled with the ingredients for dinner tonight. You have a good day and put that thing away before you start a new war. I already have an idiot of a boyfriend whose very existence is enough to start from what Sona and Riaz has told me, and I don't need any more problems today. Kaori began to leave, but was stopped by the hooded woman. Wait. Kaori at this point couldn't hide her annoyance at the person now. No one could really blame her at this point because the hooded woman has been quite hostile at the beginning. What? Do you not see that I need to make dinner tonight? I am not letting those two order takeout again, especially middle. She is just a child that is still growing, and I will not have her body suffer from the bad decisions that Kali will more than likely make, especially since she is now drinking buddies with the principal and her daughter-in-law. I apologize for attacking earlier, but could you give me directions to the cemetery? This caught Kaori's attention. I could, but I would like to know why. Kaori said with finality. I wanted to say hi to an old friend of mine. I mean, I don't think he'd appreciate me coming, but. You wanted to pay your respects. The woman nodded. That's understandable. I guess I could take you, but only if you tell me who you're visiting. She nodded before she pulled her hood down, revealing a head of orange hair and purple eyes. Well, first off I should introduce myself. My name is Irina Shidu, and the person I was going to visit is my old friend Issei Haidu. Wait, what? What? I don't know how to tell, but Ice is alive and well. What? Impossible, the last time I saw him is in that fire. Irina couldn't hide her surprise. Well, he's alive and I have a picture of him right here. Kaori said as she pulled out her phone before she showed a picture of Issei in a Hawaiian shirt with her wearing a Hawaiian dress. Oh, you look like a couple. That's because we are. He may be an idiot, but he has his heart in the right place. Irina couldn't hide her surprise, but she quickly shook it off. Oh, is that so? Kaori caught on quickly and flicked her on the head. If you think I'm not gonna let you have a chance, then you're mistaken. I actually talked to him, and my friend Sakura suggested a harem. Irina couldn't help but gasp at what she heard. But that's a sin. Kaori couldn't help but knock her on the head, but then it struck that she forgot to introduce herself. First off. My name is Kaori Murayama. Sorry about not introducing myself. Kaori said, extending a hand to shake. Irina took the hand and shook. No problem, it happens. Thanks, and second off, we're dragons. It's natural. And I could barely handle Issei. Aren't you also a devil? And what did you mean you could barely handle Issei? Irina couldn't hide her blush at the thought of what she meant. Well, he's a smartass, and he enjoys pranks along with my friend Sakura, so you can only imagine what I have to deal with. Also, I'm a devil-dragon hybrid, so I hope that explains it. Irina nodded and let out a breath of relief, thankful that they aren't doing anything filthy. It also doesn't help that he really tried to fuck a kid in me before he left, but oh well, that's dragons for ya. Yes, that actually helps explain things. It seems Issei became quite a troublemaker as time went on. Although realization finally hit her. Wait, what? Sadly for Irina, Kaori moved on with the conversation. Yeah, but Ice is Ice, and I can't help but love that lovable idiot, but no, seriously, I really do think that maybe you should talk to him. When he first came back to Kuo, he said that he wanted to find you again to help you. At this point Irina couldn't help but look down. I don't know if I can. Why do you say that? I mean, Ice really did want to help you. Why would he want to help someone that took everything away from him? Irina shouted. Kaori couldn't help but feel a little bad when she remembered what Ice said about her. Does he really need a reason to help? Irina couldn't hide her surprise at the words she said. Issei will always help someone no matter the risk. He's done it before, and I know for a fact that he will do it again and again because that's Issei for you. Kaori couldn't hide the smile that now takes up a large chunk of her face. So, I truly do think it would be best for you to talk with him. Irina couldn't stop herself from letting some tears flow, so Kaori, with her maternal knowledge, simply held Irina close as she let out some tears. After a bit of time has passed, Kaori let Irina go. Better. Irina nodded. Good. Now let's go. I bought quite the amount since Issei should be coming back tonight. Although when he called he said that everyone should be preparing themselves. What do you mean? He found out that some fragments of Excalibur have been stolen and are heading to Kuo. He also said that whoever did that has the intention of starting a new great war and must be stopped. This made Irina quickly change from sad schoolgirl to the exorcist she has been trained to be. How did Issei come across this knowledge? Issei was trained under the Fallen for a long time, so it makes sense that he has connections to the place. Kaori said in a matter-of-fact tone. Now I also need to know, did you come alone? No, I also came with my friends Zenobia and John. They should be arriving at the church by now. Kaori couldn't help but trip a little at what she heard. Wait, did you mean the old church on the hill? Yeah. I'm sure that's the only church here. Oh, Dragon God, I don't think you're gonna like what happened to it. Irina couldn't help but be scared, but then she remembered what Kaori said about Issei, and then it clicked. Issei destroyed it, didn't he? It was also at this point that the two heard a twig snap, and when they turned around they saw a brown cat with 3 tails, with an oh shit look on its face. When the cat saw them, the first thing that popped into Kaori's head is, Issei, get over here. The cat couldn't help but let its head down and walk towards Kaori. Kaori picked up the cat and set it on her shoulder. In the next moment it disappeared in a quick poof of smoke, and in its place was Issei's head on Kaori's shoulder. I can explain. Issei said before the two girls dragged him back to his house. Meanwhile in Fortuna. Time has passed as Noelle finally got used to life in Fortuna. She looked around and saw all the people and how they are working together towards a goal. One that she doesn't know about. She looked up and saw the very storm that brought her here towards Fortuna and brought her to Noelle. It's time to come home. This quickly caught the attention of the wine-haired girl as she ran towards the person who called her. While she is running, she saw the face of the person who can bring her such joy. The person that she calls Mama. Noelle shouted as she jumped in Ingvild's arms. She nuzzled herself into Ingvild's chest, while Ingvild couldn't help but smile at the little girl she calls her daughter. While it was a tough few days, Noelle quickly warmed up to her and the two became quite close. It also helps that Noelle enjoys hearing stories about someone special to her. Mama. Yes, little one. Can you tell me more stories about Papa and his friends? Ingvild couldn't help but smile at her innocence. Noelle quickly enjoyed hearing stories about him and the brave group that fought against the House of Nibirius for the freedom of the people of Fortuna. She smiled at the beaming little girl. Even though she has no relation to us. She acts so much like you Ice. Ingvild thought to herself as she looked up to the sky. I know you're still out there, so please stay safe, Ingvild thought to herself before she began to tell Noelle a story about Yutiko, the former chief of Fortuna. End of the part 4. So how was this story? I hope you like it. And if you like it, share this story with your friends and like the video too. And don't forget to subscribe our channel for daily awesome fanfiction. Okay, it's time for me to go. Bye bye.